Chicago deep dish pizza. Chicago is the pizza capital of the U.S. 500 square miles is just pizza joints, and there's a number of different types of pizza, but the Chicago deep dish pizza reigns supreme. So we've already made one, and I'm just about to eat it, but I thought I'd give you a quick tour of what it is and how it's different. So the mechanics of the pizza, as you notice, that is, first off, it's really thick. It is much more like a pie than a flat pizza. And it's also, if you notice, it's built upside down. The tomato is on the top, the toppings are in the middle, and the cheese are at the bottom. When you change this ratio and make it more of a pie, it completely changes the game on how pizzas are made. Because one thing is the restrictions on when you're making a flat pizza is that you really need to use mozzarella because it spreads nice and evenly and it gets a nice browning. When it's at the bottom, you don't have these sorts of concerns. And the reason why we have to build it upside down is because instead of baking it like 10, 12 minutes or something like that on a flatbread pizza, these are in the oven for like 35 minutes. And if you don't put the tomato sauce on the top, everything's going to burn. So that's a nice protective layer. And also in like the next ingredients, you could just pile up like a centimeter or so of topping. So it could be like pepperoni or sausage and green peppers. This one is spinach and broccoli. And then literally for this 8-inch pizza here, there's about more than a half a kilo's worth of cheese in it. But it's not just mozzarella. Mozzarella is bland. And so we want to boost up umami flavors in it. So we add also pecorino, parmesan, and some cheddar to bring in some sharpness. But the big central thing about what is so amazing about the deep dish pizza is the crust. It's not a pan pizza. It's not thick crust. It's a thin to medium crust at the bottom. And you'll see that it's been actually fried in the pan. So you have a crispy outside layer and soft in the inside. But it's also quite flaky, and it's built like a croissant, and we will show you how to do it. And we also look at the bottom, that it's nice and crisp. So this is cracking good pizza that you can do a lot with, a lot more flexibility than a flat pizza, and I think we should just go and make one. Right, so one of the big secrets of Chicago deep dish pizza is being able to do the second proofing on the dough. So this has already been proofed once, so it's been fermented and it's building in flavor. And for a normal flat pizza, this is where you stop, because if you notice, I'm spreading it around and it doesn't snap back. This is exactly what you want for a flat pizza. But we want to add a lot more flavor and a fluffy texture to the deep dish. So what I'm doing is just rolling it out, just with hand, and making it as big as possible. And now, when I'm kind of happy with that, I have some melted butter here, and I'm just going to roll it all over. And it's just like the same thing as if you're going to make a croissant. You're just rolling it with butter. You could be uber generous, and that's fine. And then what we do is just simply roll the dough into a log. And by rolling into a log, you're actually making layers just like you were doing in a croissant. And that's what's going to make it fluffy. So I can just take that, put it back into my bowl. And now we wait for another about 2 hours for that to proof again and to bring more fermented flavor, more umami into the dough. Done. Brilliant. Okay, our dough has like doubled in size already. So this is on the second proofing, is after it's been all buttered and rolled. So if we just take that out, really, take one of them out. It's a bit of a beast. coming in through here. And if we just cut it in half, and you'll see quite closely that we're starting to get layers forming into here, just like a croissant. That's what's going to give us a nice, really flaky, buttery dough. So we'll put that to the side for a moment, and before we make the pizza, we need to make the sauce. The cool thing about Chicago pizza is that you don't have to make the sauce ahead of time. You can make it, you don't have to cook it, it can go cold. The big trick with it is using really high quality chunky tomatoes. Don't buy the like 35p a can, buy the quid a can things, because they're deeper in red color and they're more chunky and they're thicker in the tomato juice. And this is just going to add, we don't want a soggy pizza, and when they're redder, they're going to have more umami flavor. So we're going to always be trying to push the umami over the top on this pizza. So some chunky tomato, really quite simple sauce, some red onion, chuck that in there, fresh herbs, oregano, parsley, basil, that kind of thing. Fresh is better because we're only going to cook them for like 30 minutes in the oven, so that's going to work. Some garlic, salt and pepper. It's kind of better to do this the day before because the flavors will melt, but it's not necessary. You can just do it when you make the dough or whatever. Even just when you make the dough, make the sauce. But you don't have to cook it, and it's nice and chunky tomato sauce. That should be suffice for one pizza. And then we probably just want to taste it to check the salt content and pepper content. Herbs are definitely there. Garlic, salt's there, maybe a little bit more pepper. So that's done, really quite easy. Next bit is where a flat pizza you just generally use mozzarella. Some people will use cheddar, but mozzarella, what you're looking for is the browning effect on it, as well as how well it spreads over and gets the melt onto the pizza. Because we're building the Chicago deep dish pizza upside down, we don't care about the browning effect whatsoever. We're actually, and we're not worried about the melting as much, as long as it doesn't texture and does melt, because we're going to put such a thick layer of pizza on it, we're not so much concerned about how well it melts. So I'm going to mix some. Normally I do about 40% mozzarella. This is just store-bought dry grade mozzarella. The fresh stuff and the posher stuff, like buffalo mozzarella from Japan, doesn't work. If you want this really grated dry mozzarella, and you want it to be from when it made, about 2 to 4 weeks old. If it's too old, it's just going to get really stringy. It's going to end up being a choking hazard to it. You want it to be able to stretch and then snap, not stretch on for light years on these things. And then cheddar is just going to give some nice color to the cheese mixture and some shortness. So I'm using 40%. Then we have two different cheeses that's going to really boost up the umami. Parmesan, which is like the highest rated cheese for umami. Well, against anything, it's even more than like tomato ketchup. That's going to great. And then there's Pecorino Romano, which is another Italian hard cheese. It's made from sheep's milk. And again, in Chicago, normally they don't give you Parmesan. They normally give you Parmesan and Romano 50-50 mix as a topping. So it's held a little bit back in reserve, so we could put that in a topping. And that's the cheese mixture. Really quite simple, but that's going to have a lot of flavor. You could change around. I tend to put like feta cheese in it and goat cheese and things, depending on what kind of toppings I have. So now we have the cheese mixture and we have the tomato sauce. Simple. Now we need some dough. Now, in order to make a Chicago deep dish pizza, you need a deep steel pan, seasoned This looks ugly as sin, but it needs to be like that or the pizza is going to stick. So when you get a new pan, oil it, burn it in the oven until it's seasoned. Here again, I'm just using generous amounts of avocado oil. Again, I just love the flavor and the health benefits and the coloring it does. But olive oil is the standard thing. And I have a big bit of dough. So I'm just going to lay this out flat just for a minute. And Chicago deep dish pizza is actually more like just building a pie. And it's thin, the base is actually supposed to be thin, not thick. It's not a pan pizza where you get a big, thick dough and a little bit of topping. It's a really thin crust. So we're just laying it out flat. And you can see that this is actually fresh dough. I made it today. It'll be lovely. It's even better if it's a few days older and just left in the refrigerator, which it would ferment and add in more flavor. That's one of the strong advantages of a deep dish pizza or a flat pizza, is that you could use old dough, because old dough will snap and cause all sorts of problems shaping it. But because how we set it into the pan, it's not so. I just wipe out a little bit of that oil and set the pizza inside over the top. If it breaks, that's no problem. We could just fold it in. And we just start pushing it into the sides. And over. And just keep working that. We quite want to get as much dough out of this as possible, in all honesty. We don't want too much. But we don't want any air bubbles in the side or anything like that. So we're just putting it in. So that's all fine. Now we just take our cheese mix at this and we just fill it up. Such. That's probably, for an 8-inch pizza, literally about a kilo's worth of cheese. It's ridiculous amounts of cheese. And then, for what we're going to make is spinach and broccoli pizza. This was done at Uno's in Chicago. They're actually the people who invented it. And you can just put the broccoli in. I cut it into small little chunks because if they're too big, they're not going to cook properly. But all the ingredients are in here going in raw. So we just fill that all up and just push it into the cheese. See, that it just holds the dough into place now. The ingredients are, as I keep saying, we're making a pie. And then I have a whole bunch of fresh spinach that I just kind of ripped in my hand a little bit and pushed it in. So, and then I have my sauce. Run that through. Just cover the top, and that's the sauce job. Is besides giving a bit more flavor and the freshness of it, it's actually going to help protect all the spinach and cheese and everything from actually burning. That's why the Chicago pizza is upside down, because the bake times are so long. If you put the pizza in upside down, cheese, then ingredients, tomato sauce, then ingredients, and then cheese, it will burn in that time. So we're almost there, so we'll just clean up the edges. So just cut off the excess. That's that. So we don't need that for now, but we can save that for later. And then we just coat the end of the dough, the crust, with a little bit more oil, and that'll just stop that from burning and also give a nice, really quite yellow color. Dip it into the sides. Brilliant. Now, we just put it in the oven for about 30-35 minutes at quite a high temperature, 205 degrees Celsius, and then we'll come back. It's now done. It's been in the oven for about 35 minutes. Take it. It's nice and hot. It's all nice and brown. The avocado oil did a cracking good job in giving it some color. And it's going to be hot. And then underneath, you want to feel it, making sure it's crisped up. The olive oil does a really good job, or avocado oil, in actually frying the outside of the crust is what you want. And that's nice, and it's nice and firm, and it's holding it into place. Now you can see it's absolutely ginormous. Now we're just going to cut into it. Well, generally, deep dish pizzas are often just served straight back into the pan. And a lot of times they're not even cut. Definitely not a takeout, because the juices that are in the cheeses and the vegetables will make the bottom soggy. And that's the last thing you want. But a table service of pizza this big, it's quite often cut, and that's what you'll get. And then you always finish it off with some Parmesan and some Romano, and you'll also sometimes find some some chili to be poured on. And that's your Chicago deep dish pizza.